Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. If you're tuning in for the first time, we are a Boston-based internet radio station with all the bells and whistles. You can listen to us from any country, whether you're in the car, whether you're in your home or work, just anywhere you are. And you're listening to the Love by Intuition show, which is Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And I love to share that we are the media partner for the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. Well, we have a wonderful, for lack of another term, a wonderful guest, a wonderful show for you, all about the afterlife and all kinds of things, including readings if someone desires to call. We are talking with Mark Anthony about his book, The Afterlife Frequency, The Scientific Proof of Spiritual Contact and How That Awareness Will Change Your Life. Now, Mark is an attorney, and he's a psychic explorer, as he says, and he is the author of this book and many others, bestsellers, Never Letting Go and Evidence of Eternity. He co-hosts a live stream TV show, The Psychic in the Dark, and he's a regular columnist for the Best Holistic Life magazine. And I know Pat through the vibes, through emails back in the day, so I know that you've got a good thing going there, Mark. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's great to be here. I'm honored.
I'm the one that's honored. We are, because of all your gifts and your expertise. So let's start with, I know, from reading the book, your parents were open and they were mediums themselves. But tell us a little bit about your childhood, and I'd love for you to share that near-death experience and your dad was there for you.
Well, my childhood, when I was around 3.5 years old, I started seeing spirits. And that's not unusual for a child to have quote-unquote invisible friends, but when Mommy and Daddy can see them too, and I'll never forget their reaction. Mom was like, "Oh, he's got it," and Dad was like, "Oh, he's got it." They had very different reactions because, Deborah, on my mother's side of the family, my mother's family came from Italy, and they looked at this as a gift from God, the gift of second sight. In fact, my maternal great-grandmother, Giovanna, was known in the Italian community of New Jersey, North Jersey, and Little Italy in New York City as the woman who knows things. In fact, PBS did a special called The Italian Americans back in 2016. It was a 2-night special, 2 hours a night. They actually did an entire segment on my maternal great-grandmother, Giovanna, and they referenced her psychic abilities. So it was really fascinating to see this brought to the light on that scale. And then my father's family, very conservative Pennsylvanians, they were of the Baptist faith. In fact, my great-great-grandfather on my father's mother's side was a Baptist minister. And my father, his sister, he had 3 sisters and a brother, but one of his sisters, Marjorie, had these abilities, as did his mother, Isabel, and his maternal grandmother, Grace. But they kind of kept it very quiet. But everybody in their town knew about it. But it was funny because my dad said his mother and his grandmother always said that they had the ladies over on Thursday afternoons to play bridge or canasta or whatever it was. And he said he was a kid and he was listening through the door one time. He goes, there was no canasta going on in there. They were like, there is a spirit communicating. They were doing readings on Thursday afternoons, which I always thought was funny. But I was the first person in the family to go public with it. I mean, my dad was a U.S. Navy SEAL, and then after that he became a NASA engineer. So it's not like they were going around in a covered wagon going, "Oh, we see spirit." That wasn't happening. So my childhood was kind of more Addams Family than it was Brady Bunch. I'm making a joke there, but. And with my NDE, I really don't want to get into the details of that because that is an integral part of the chapter on near-death and shared-death experiences. And so I want the listeners to, the people who are going to read the book to read about that. But suffice it to say, when I was about 4 years old, I was 6-7 months after I turned 4 years of age. I had a near-death experience, and it's something which has shaped my entire life since that time. And so my book goes very deeply into the different forms of spirit communication, mediumship, direct visitations that people who aren't mediums can have, whether it's in a dream or you feel somebody's around you, near-death experiences, deathbed visions, where somebody who is dying will see spirits of loved ones around them, and then shared death experiences where people who are in close physical proximity to the person in transition will also see those spirits. They may even get caught up in what's known as the life review, and at the time of the person's death, they may see a surge of white light come out of the person's body. They may feel lifted off their feet. They may experience other phenomenon, which means that they are their brainwave frequency is intersecting with the frequency of the person's soul in transition. And so I explain all of this through quantum physics, through physiology, through neuroscience, and I've spent the better part of 10 years doing the research on this, and then, of course, illustrating all this with stories so that people can relate to it. Because here's the thing, Deborah, as an attorney, I had to suffer through a lot of really boring books in law school and in the practice of law. So I always made a pledge that when I write a book, I want to write something that's entertaining, educational, but makes people think.
Yes, and it is. It's comprehensive with so much information, but it's easy to absorb and it's easy to read and understand. Even for someone that may be a newbie, per se. So it's excellent. As I said before we got on live, that I've read it twice because it's really packed with excellent information, and for questions for many people out there, you have the answers. So thank you for that. So one of the questions I had for you was, what drew you to be an attorney? Was your intention once you were an attorney to actually work with more of the, on the investigation, the law, and that end of things where people have been murdered or things of that sort?
The fascinating part of my career choice, if you will, is it's not unusual for a medium to be drawn to the spiritual. And Deborah, I wanted to go into the clergy. I always, I was raised in the Catholic faith, but I studied all the world's religions. I've studied Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Native American spirituality, Jainism, Shintoism, Taoism. I like all the isms because I find a common thread that runs through all of them. And I thought that would be where I needed to go, was into the priesthood. But I started to see that, God, too many rules and regulations. So I ended up jumping out of the rule and regulation frying pan right into the rule and regulation fire, I decided to go to law school instead. And I served as a prosecuting attorney where I worked for the state of Florida, where we would, bring the charges against criminals. Then I was offered a position at a private law firm in their criminal defense division. So throughout the course of my career, I worked as a prosecutor, as a criminal offense lawyer, as a personal injury litigator. So I did a lot of complex civil litigation in complex criminal litigation. I've tried over 100 jury trials and countless non-jury trials. And the thing is, what I always liked, Deborah, about the law is that I had to learn about forensics. I had to learn about chemistry, about biology, about neuroscience. I specialized in head injury and brain injury litigation. And so it gave me this wealth of information so that when I did leave the practice of law to go full-time into being a medium, it brought this wide array of information, and then I started to see the parallels in how that there is a scientific explanation for not just the afterlife, but also spirit communication, near-death experiences, deathbed visions, shared-death experiences, and that there's a denominator through all of it. So the common denominator between all of the different forms of spirit communication is what I've termed the electromagnetic soul. And that's one of the many terms,
yes,
the new terms that I developed for this book, because we know from the study of faith that every great spiritual teacher, from the Hindu sages of ancient India through Zoroaster, through Moses, Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, Lao Tzu, Muhammad, Native American spirituality, that all the belief systems teach that the soul, the consciousness, the spirit, who and what we really are, pre-exists the body, comes into the body, and when the body ceases to function, in other words, physical death, we move on. We know from the laws of thermodynamics and physics that energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. And we know from neuroscience that not only does the body have an electrical field, but the most complex electrical field, electrical system in the body is within the human brain, and that is where the soul resides. So the human brain doesn't create consciousness, it doesn't create the soul, it merely hosts it. And so the electromagnetic soul describes what we really are, which is pure consciousness of soul that is eternal electromagnetic energy.
Right, which is really spirit. However, I liked your terminology because it makes a deeper impact when you're thinking about with.
Yeah,
go right ahead.
Dr. Gary Schwartz. He is
yes.
head of parapsychology, psychology, physics, and surgery at the University of Arizona, and he wrote the foreword to the book, and I love it. He called me up one night. He goes, "Mark, electromagnetic soul, I love it." He said, I came up with a theory similar to this where we called it the electrodynamical mind-brain. He gives like 10 words. He goes, electromagnetic soul says it all. He goes, I'm using this. I'm going to call it the EMS. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. Thank you. And so scientists have started, referring to our soul as the EMS. Some people have said, well, that takes away from the spiritual. It's like, no, it doesn't. There is an answer and an explanation for everything. We grew up, God works in mysterious ways. Well, of course. And the laws of physics are extremely mysterious. I mean, Werner Heisenberg, one of the founders of quantum physics, said that when you think you understand quantum physics, you really don't. I mean, it is something that explains everything, but is still so complex, and yet, there's still all these discoveries to be made. And the electromagnetic soul pulls all that together to explain that, yes, this is spiritual, but there is an explanation for what it is and how it happens. And where I got that, Deborah, is when I was 8 years old. I always had a really good relationship with my parents. I'm very fortunate for that. And my dad was a NASA engineer. He worked with astronauts. So I'm an 8-year-old, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, Dad works with astronauts. I just thought he was the coolest guy ever. And we were looking at the stars one night, and he said, Mark, there's no such thing as a mystery. There are only questions for which we do not yet have the answer. And if enough research and funding and dedication go into any question, we're going to figure it out. It may take time, but we're going to figure it out, and it's going to be based on science. And so that kind of set the tone for how I approach everything, basically.
Sure. Wow. So one of the things I think the listeners need to know, in the book you talk about different people that end up saying no, or just, they can't recall or do not see the connection with how you're reading. And I should say that with your expertise as an attorney and then with the medium piece, the visions and the pictures that you see, or the messages that you receive from spirits, the two, bringing that both together, if I can spit it out, is that you can see more clearly what they're explaining. Because I think we've all experienced different mediums where they might see something, but they might understand it differently than, say, you. Now with your legal background, you bring that to the table, and I think it brings more clarity to what is actually being conveyed.
Well, I think that all mediums receive information the same way energetically. It's how we process it and
my point.
Interpret it. Yeah, exactly. And I see things, hear things, feel things, smell things, taste things. So spirits can come through, and when they connect with me, initially, if I'm doing a reading on somebody, initially when a spirit comes in, I'll get his or her gender, then I'll get an idea of their relationship to the person. So if I say that, like, they're your level, that means your generation, like a brother, sister, cousin, spouse, friend, below your level, child, niece, nephew, above your level, parent, aunt, uncle. Then they start transmitting to me, I'll feel how they died. And while this can be very, very upsetting for people, it's important to understand that they're not reliving that in spirit form. What they're doing is they're transmitting to me identifiers so we can get a profile on them, and then they'll move from there to deeper messages. And so you brought up an interesting point when people say no. There's a chapter in my book called The Unfolding and Avoiding the No Syndrome. And what happens is a lot of times things that are being transmitted by a spirit are not going to make sense to you right away. It takes time after the reading. So think of the reading like a flower. Blooms, blossoms, unfolds. It can take hours, days, weeks, and sometimes longer for the full meaning of a reading to make sense to somebody. Everybody wants us to be texting, instant messaging, now. I mean, because we live in a zap action, immediate gratification society. Well, spirits aren't on our timetable, and nor are their messages. For example, I was doing a session for these two women who were sisters. They were in their 20s. Their mother spirit came through and kept referencing their other sister. Now, here's the thing, Deborah. Their other sister was alive and well. She just wasn't present during the reading. And she kept giving me the name Michael, and then 10/11, October 11. And one of the sisters, she was kind of snarky, and she goes, come on, Mark, everybody knows somebody named Michael. I said, well, of course, it's a very common name. Okay, I've got like three different cousins named Michael. And they couldn't think of anything in October, so 10/11, October 11 didn't make any sense. So when people say no, what they're doing is generating a negative barrier. Spirits will start to back off. So I told them, look, if you don't get it, don't worry about it, okay? And don't strain and struggle trying to figure it out. Just jot it down. Let's move on to the next segment. Well, 6 weeks later, Deborah, they contacted me, and they said, Mark, we figured this out. 10 days after the reading with you, it was October 11th, 10/11. And that's the day that Hurricane Michael hit our sister's hometown in Florida. She went into labor 3 weeks early and had her baby girl during Hurricane Michael on 10/11. Okay, so I'm like, okay, I think we figured it out. Now, the thing is, why would anyone have thought of Michael as a hurricane? Because at the time of the reading, it hadn't formed yet. And Hurricane Michael was a really bad one. It was a Category 5, but it was get whipped up really quickly. Secondly, their sister's due date was not October 11th. It was closer to the end of October, early November. So why would anyone think of that? The thing is, spirits can perceive what you and I call the future. And here's why. This goes back to my electromagnetic soul theory. See, we know from science that everything is made of molecules. Molecules, in turn, are made of atoms. Atoms are made of electrons, protons, and neutrons. And they are made of a smaller particle of electromagnetic energy called quantum, or quanta if it's plural. But that's where the term quantum physics comes from, because everything on the subatomic level is energy, electromagnetic energy. Now, for the benefit of the physicists out there, yes, an electron is technically a quantum because it's 1/1800th the size of a proton. But we're dealing with on the basic subatomic level. And what that means is that everything, Deborah, in other words, your body, my body, is at the most basic level electromagnetic energy. So are the chairs we're sitting in, the microphones we're speaking into, the radio waves that are transmitting this show, the light that we're seeing, the distance, the space between the Earth and the planets and the sun. I mean, when you start thinking about this is where, quantum physics trying to wrap your head around it, but spiritually, always was, always will be. Okay, so this is where all of this is interconnected. Now, why is it that spirits can bring up future events? Because on the subatomic level, on the quantum level, quantum physicists have theorized, and this is something Albert Einstein was talking about, Stephen Hawking was talking about. I can go down the whole list of quantum physicists. But on the subatomic level, time as we know it does not exist. Everything is happening simultaneously. And I do explain this in the Afterlife Frequency, my new book, in a pretty easy to understand fashion. But it comes down to spirits are able to tap into that. And so in that scenario with the sisters, with Hurricane Michael in 10/11, the mother was transmitting information that this baby girl was going to be born on October 11th during this dreadful hurricane. And if they hadn't been no, and as resistant, it may have been possible for the spirit to have given us more information that may have been get her out of there, because all I was thinking is that poor young lady. I mean, childbirth is a beautiful thing, but it's tough on a woman. It's painful, but during a Category 5 hurricane, that could not have been a very pleasant day.
Right. Well, we need to take our first break. Everyone stay with us. We'll be back more with Martha Anthony. And the number here, if you'd like to call in, is 833-220-1200. Again, 1-833-220-1200. We'll be back in a moment.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first grade teacher Caitlin Royd DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K through 8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation Retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. Sit and read in the garden, explore the woodland trails, or try a daily yoga or meditation class. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and we're visiting with Mark Anthony, who is both an attorney and a psychic explorer. And he's world-renowned, Oxford educated. And the book is, and he has other books as well, and it sounds like you're writing another, The Afterlife Frequency, the scientific proof of spiritual contact and how that awareness will change your life. You can get that on Amazon or anywhere you choose to purchase your books. And if you would like to get in touch with Mark, you can go on his site. It's AFTERLIFEFrequency.com, just as it sounds, AFTERLIFEFrequency.com. Before the break, we were talking about all, the magnetic, should I say, soul. And one of the things I think that are important, because we were talking also about people with the no-no and they're closing themselves off, and so the spirit backs off. You actually created RAFT. So tell us a little about what RAFT means.
Yeah, the RAFT technique is a 4-step technique on how to help people get the maximum benefit out of spirit communication. And it's interesting how RAFT came about, because I was working on the book and I was trying to figure out, Deborah, I was like, how do I explain to people who are not mediums how they can benefit from a spiritual experience and spirit contact? And when you're a writer, we all have to cope with the dreaded writer's block. And it always seems like it happens on a day where I scheduled the whole day off just to work on the book. Okay, so here I am bright and early. I've got my coffee going and nothing. Nada. I just couldn't think of anything. And I thought, well, let me go for a walk on the beach, because I live near the ocean, and it's always soothing, clear my head out. So I'm heading down my driveway, and all of a sudden I get these cold chills and tingles. I go, okay, this is electromagnetic activity, so this is something to do with somebody's trying to contact me. And I felt guided in the opposite direction from the ocean to this bike path near my house. All right, it's 11 in the morning, so I'm taking a walk down the bike path. Suddenly I see these two objects glowing in the light, and I walk up to them, and it's a nickel and a penny. And I lean over to pick them up, and I hear my mom's voice, because my parents are in spirit, but I hear her voice in my head. If their head's down, it's bad luck. And Deborah, I started laughing because the Italian side of my family, they have a superstition for all occasions. God forbid you walk under a ladder, black cat cross your path, drop a mirror. And I started laughing, because it was cracking me up. And then I hear my dad's voice say, it's money, grab it. So I pick up this nickel and this penny, and I'm chuckling, and it's like, oh, great. My parents are making contact, and I go, oh, it's 6 cents. And then I say, wait a second, 6 cents. I knew this was more, this was no random occurrence, that I was right where I was. And then the cold chills and tingles enveloped me. So I said, okay, Mom and Dad, you're trying to tell me something. What is it? And in my mind's eye, I see a vision of my dad standing in the ocean up to his waist holding this blue canvas raft. I mentioned before he was a Navy SEAL. He was he was also a scuba diver and a swimming instructor. And I remember the blue canvas raft because we used to ride waves on it, and this was like when any time we were in the water, Dad brought this raft. And then I heard my parents say to me, raft. Teach people how to recognize signs from spirits, accept the contact is real, feel it without overthinking it, trust the message. I go, oh my gosh. So I run back, get to my computer, and the words just flew. The writer's block was gone. So Mom and Dad came through, and they helped me develop, or rather, they transmitted to me this 4-step technique. And the raft technique, they walked me through it. They gave me a living example. So I'm walking on this bike path. I see these coins. I hear them, so I recognize the sign from the spirits. I accepted it as real. I felt it without overthinking it, because it's the third step where everybody goes wrong. Overthink. I call it cross-examining the experience. Oh, I must be making this up. Oh, obviously this is a coincidence. Oh, this can't possibly. See, that's where people go wrong. We start overthinking.
Right, and there are no coincidences.
There are no exactly. There's synchronicities, not coincidences, and then trust the message. And so this can be applied not just to a situation like that, but perhaps you have a dream where it feels real, like where you have a discussion with somebody who has passed. This can be applied to making sense of your near-death experience, to a deathbed vision, to shared death experiences. Deathbed visions and shared death experiences are very they're very closely aligned with each other. And so I realized that the raft technique had very broad application to the different forms of spirit contact. And so I've been getting so much feedback from people who have read the Afterlife Frequency, and they said that, wow, I'm applying a raft technique, and it's really working. And when you start working with it, it becomes second nature. It's just getting to that third step.
Yes, very good. So in the book, there's a young woman called Leslie, and she has a kidney infection, and she actually transitioned to the other side, and it was all about the boyfriend not taking her to the ER. But she was able to come back with a message that changed a law. And what my question is, what are your thoughts about why more spirits don't come forth with, say that they, there's a lot of heinous crimes, murder and such, and some of the murderers are still walking around on Earth for years on end. Do you know, I'd just like to put it out there to get your perspective from your expertise, why more spirits don't come forth with details to help solve that murder and help the next person?
it's because more people in this world are not employing the raft technique. See, spirits are around us all the time, and they're transmitting messages to us. And your question is a very, very good question, and it's not one to be taken lightly because there's a lot of reasons for everything. There are the dark energies that walk among us, and Vladimir Putin, okay? Here is a person who clearly does not have any love in his life, motivated by ego and anger, okay, and inflicting this unnecessary and this terrible war on the people of Ukraine. And I'm not here to get political, but what I'm saying is that everybody, even the dark energies, have a role to play, and sometimes those roles are not a positive thing. And before we went on air, Deborah, for the benefit of the listeners, Deborah and I were talking about how there's light and there's dark, but ultimately the light prevails because the darkness cannot even stand up to so much as the light from a candle. And so terrible things happen in the material world. Hell in the archetypal sense of a guy running around with a pitchfork sticking in the butt for all of eternity, that is a myth. There is no hell on the other side. I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in demons. And trust me, I went to Catholic school. I was raised in the Catholic faith, and let me tell you, they're all about that. But in the over 15,000 readings that I've done in the spirit communication, I've come to the conclusion that hell is here on this earth. And right now, the people of Ukraine are in it. Right now, if you are a parent of a child who has passed, you are in hell. People who are coping with terminal diseases like cancer and people who've lost loved ones for any reason, you're in hell. But hell is not a permanent state. It can take a very long time, but you can emerge from it. So why don't spirits solve their murders? There may be many, many, many complex reasons why they sometimes do and other times that they don't. So I hope that if it doesn't answer your question, at least I hope it provides food for thought as to the infinite possibilities that exist when dealing with the infinity of the other side.
Absolutely. Another question that I have brought up in the past, because I guess I'm trying to find a place where it makes sense to me, and this is when someone transitions, actually my husband, a couple of decades ago, and I still have visitations from him. Yet I also believe in reincarnation.
Yes.
So I call how I have. I'm sorry?
What happens if he reincarnates before you get to the other side?
Well, no. The question is, and I know there isn't any time element to it, but with reincarnation, say that his soul comes back, he could be in Alabama and have a family of 5, and yet he still visits me. And some people will say, well, he stays, with you through your lifetime. Well, what about the daughters? What about my daughters? Would he stay through the daughters? And then the other thought came to me that...
Let's take this one at a time.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. That's a wonderful question, and I give a lecture on reincarnation, and this is a very often asked question. In my book, Evidence of Eternity, I go into reincarnation, and I explain and answer that very question. See, our electromagnetic soul, yes, it's housed in the brain, but because of quantum entanglement, we are attached to the collective consciousness. In other words, when we die, think of yourself as a drop of water that plunges into this eternal sea of souls. So what that means is we're actually multidimensional beings. So even though, our consciousness, our soul is in our body, we are tethered to this greater collective consciousness. And some people call it your higher self. So think of your higher self, the higher frequency aspect of your EMS, your electromagnetic soul, as a librarian. And that the individual lives that you've led, it's like characters from a book. So let's say that you were Anne Frank in The Diary of Anne Frank, and in another one you were Michael Corleone from The Godfather, and in another one you were Anne of Green Gables, okay? Well, those characters don't know each other, but the higher self does. And the higher self, being the librarian, retains all the memories, personality traits of all the various incarnations. So let's say that you want to get in touch with Anne Frank, but now she's reincarnated as Michael Corleone from The Godfather, okay? Even though, and I'll just bring this to your example, even though your husband may have reincarnated as somebody else and then having a family, the higher self aspects of his EMS, his electromagnetic soul, you can still communicate with, and it will contain the memories, feelings, his personality. So that's why even if people reincarnate, we can still communicate with them. And I know this is hard to grasp, but this also gets into the timelessness of time. Now, the Hindus who've been studying reincarnation for thousands of years, they have a very fascinating take on this, whereas that your next life could be in what you and I consider to be the past. So instead of, your husband coming back in the year 2032, he may actually be born in 1632.
Okay.
I know it's a lot to wrap your head around.
Well, the last piece, yes. If you could repeat that last piece. Okay.
Hindus believe that your next life can be in what we consider to be the past. So instead of your husband being born, reincarnating in the year 2032, perhaps he will be born in what you and I call the year 1632.
I see. And that can make sense, too. What is fascinating is what you explained validates what I've come to believe in my own little world. But I call them facets, soul facets. I say the main soul is with the light, God, source, all of that. And then there's facets of the soul that can be in Alabama or another lifetime over here, or like you're saying, reincarnate to a time in the past. So I want to thank you, Mark, because I've asked a lot of questions all the time, and I know we're in a mysterious, we'll never know all the answers. But that piece of it always bothered me, how he could be coming and visiting, and yet he could have reincarnated a couple of times by now. So it just brings, it just connects the dots.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're always going to be interconnected through the energy of love. And so let's say you live another 50 years. In his reckoning, you're going to be coming to the other side in the blink of an eye. And so when you do, he'll be there. And so, because a lot of people go, oh my God, what if they reincarnate? It's like, don't worry about it. Because we're trying to understand things through a finite filter, because our brain is designed to interpret everything and perceive everything on a finite basis, because we come into this material world to experience things that we can't when we're in an infinite, pure energetic state. In other words, pure energy doesn't get old, sick, tired, or die. And it appears that we come into this world and we even experience suffering, pain, loss, grief, war, all these things that you can't on the other side. And it appears that what we go through here, how we react to it, how we handle it, how we're proactive, has a direct relationship to the frequency that we go into when we leave this world. Because the other side, and I've had people disagree with me with this. They say, oh, the other side, everyone's all happy, it's all kumbaya. It's like, no, it isn't. There are different frequencies to the other side. So let's face it, Mother Teresa is going to go into a much higher frequency than an Osama bin Laden. And The thing is, it doesn't mean that there's a hell. It means that the negative energies are going to go into a different frequency, and then they're going to have to work themselves out of that frequency, which can be through spirit, what they do spiritually, or by reincarnating into this world. So I always tell people there is no hell, but there is reincarnation. So you better be nice, because if you think things are bad this time, or if you're a predator and a bully and you prey upon people and you do horrible, horrible things, you may think that you're going to get away with it, but the one thing about karma, she never loses an address, okay? And that is a constant in the universe. And see, people mistake karma with the law of for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. If that were the case, then every time you did something good, immediately something bad would happen, because there's not an equal and immediate reaction. Karma is more like a ripple effect. So that's why it's going to come back to you. It may be in this world, or it could be in another incarnation. Once again, this is something that I discussed in my last book, Evidence of Eternity, but I also explain in great detail in my new book, The Afterlife Frequency, about karma and about the ripple effect, and how no matter how much we think the bad guys got away with it, they never do.
Yeah. Thank you for all that information. I'm embracing and enjoying this information. So another question where you're so tuned in, do you have an idea of how high a frequency that the human has to be at before they actually see the other side more clearly? I mean, for those of us that have visitors and such, and we have visions and we see, and some people think it's a dream, but it's a reality many times. With that said, for some it may not be enough. I'm thinking of my sister who's dealing with grief right now. There's been a lot of it, and a lot in our family, and so I just wonder, wouldn't it be neat if we could be at a higher frequency now, enough to actually connect?
Well, we all have the same physical equipment, and neuroscientists have identified 5 different forms of brainwave frequency: gamma, beta, alpha, theta, delta. Gamma is ultra-high frequency. And that's, I call that like Matamodio, Ken Jennings on Jeopardy. That is when you are just cranking out, running your brain at full throttle. Then the beta state is the normal, natural awake state. This is where you can drive your car, balance your checkbook, go to work. Alpha is when you begin to relax. It's a daydreamy type state. It's the meditative state. It's as you begin to drift into theta, which is dreamful sleep, and then there's delta, which is dreamless sleep. And delta is where your body repairs itself. That's why there's not a lot of brainwave activity going on, because energy is diverted to, healing cellular structures. But it's on the alpha-theta border, the relaxed state and the dream state, where psychic activity occurs. And so for people that have a dream where a loved one comes and talks to them, spirits can spot when you are in that alpha-theta border, and that's why they'll connect with you in the dream state. That's also, Deborah, why the dream state is such a popular means of spirit communication. We even see this in the Bible. Joseph, interpreting the dreams of Pharaoh. You get Jacob's ladder, where God talks to him. Joseph, the stepfather of Jesus, receiving a couple of prophetic dreams, the 3 wise men. I mean, dreams as a means of spirit communication is ingrained not just in our culture, but also in our Judeo-religious heritage for those who are of the either Jewish or Christian faiths. The thing is, we're not sure, we meaning those of us who study psychic phenomenon, we're not sure why people like me can go from beta to alpha theta within seconds. Normally it takes hours in the dream state, and there's various theories why that happens. So to answer your question, it's getting to that alpha theta border. Meditation is key to it. Developing your spiritual situational awareness, which is another concept I introduce and technique I discuss in the Afterlife Frequency, employing the raft technique when you do receive these signs from spirits. So everybody is capable of having a psychic or mediumistic experience, even though not everybody is a psychic or a medium. In other words, we can all swim, we can all get in a pool and slosh around. Doesn't mean you're going to win a gold medal at the Olympics for speed swimming, but we can still enjoy the benefits of being able to swim. It just comes down to some people are better at some things than other people. I mean, some folks are better artists, some are better musicians, some are better mathematicians, and the same is true of psychic and mediumistic skills.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. And the thing is, let me ask you a question, Deborah. Have you ever spotted a spirit out of your peripheral vision? Like you thought there was somebody there and you turned and you looked, or maybe let's say you're in the bathroom and you thought you caught a glimpse maybe of your husband in the mirror for a second?
Absolutely.
You know why that happens? It has to do with the structure of the human eye. See, people say, I thought I saw a spirit out of my peripheral vision, then I turned and looked and they vanished. Or I thought I saw somebody in the mirror, then I looked really hard and they vanished. They didn't vanish. The eye, okay, let's go to the pupil, all right, the black part, center part of your eye. Within the center part of your eye are what's known as cones. And cones are for daytime vision, seeing color in detail. On the periphery of the pupil are rods, and rods detect light, and that's for nighttime vision. And so that's why if you try to look at a comet at night, it's hard to look at directly, but if you look at it in your peripheral vision, you see more of it because the light is so subtle. So that's why spirits are depicted as being gray and transparent, is because when you see them out of your peripheral vision, what's happening is the part of your eye that detects light and subtle light patterns is what's detecting them, and that's your nighttime vision. And then when you turn to look at them, you hit the spirit, or rather you're trying to observe the spirit with your daytime detailed vision that is not, and because the cones are not light sensitive, they appear to vanish. But they haven't vanished. They're there. And so in paranormal investigations, you've got to, if you start to detect a spirit, try to observe it out of your peripheral vision. See, that's why astronomers have developed the technique known as averted vision, so that when you observe a comet, you look at it with your peripheral vision and you'll be able to see it, because when you shift from your peripheral to your direct vision, it seems like it vanishes. And so I see this a lot with people saying, I could have sworn I saw my son just for a second, but I turned and he disappeared. No, he did not disappear. Yeah. It's just your ability. It's the frequency of the light that you're tuning into.
Yeah. Fascinating. We only have a few minutes left. I need to have you back another time. After you complete the book that you're working on now would be lovely. But I wanted to just...
Yeah, well, the thing is, right now, what I'm doing is I'm always writing another book, but the Afterlife Frequency, has just recently come out, and I'm very honored about what's happened. Since it's released, it's already in a second printing. It has been recommended by movie star, film legend Shirley MacLaine. I was notified by Columbia University that it's submitted for a Pulitzer, and this last week, PrettyProgressive.com designated it as one of the top 16 books about faith and God. and I've just been overwhelmed
Excellent.
at the response that it's getting. And I understand my agent said that there are several foreign book publishers now looking at it and printing it in other languages, because both my other books are in several different languages. So I've been working full force on that. I'm going to be speaking and presenting at the Helping Parents Heal Conference, which is going to be in August in Phoenix, Arizona. And then in September, which will be Labor Day, I'll be a distinguished speaker at the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And then in October, I'll be presenting Sacred Astrology, the mystery of the Star of Bethlehem and the mystical Magi at the Edgar Cayce Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia. So I've been working on those presentations, plus there's others. I'll be giving a talk at a consciousness conference in April, and then Spiritual Awakenings International in June. So if people want to find out about these things, please sign up for my newsletter, which is by visiting afterlifefrequency.com. And also you can sign up for a reading through my website as well. So I've got a lot of things going on, and being on a show like this, Deborah, makes all the difference, because I really want to thank you for providing this forum to have people like me on here to where we can discuss these topics openly for people who are interested.
Yes, I think that's so important to have the discussions, the conversations, because someone's going to hear, and it's going to make all the difference in their world with their grief or whatever it is that they're experiencing. I just wanted to acknowledge that it had moved me the first time, and then when I read the book the second time, it moved me even more. Your experience with your dad as he transitioned, and we don't have.
Hold on. I don't want to talk about that, because that is something that people need to read about.
Yes, I agree. We aren't going to talk about it.
You don't want to give away the ending of the book, okay? But
right. I'm not.
That.
But I wanted to acknowledge how I felt and how moved I was by reading that both times. So we'll have you back one day if you have time. But the book is The Afterlife Frequency. Everyone out there, pass the show around, listen to it again. There's nuggets in there for you and your life. And everyone, let's raise the vibration of love and light so that the world can come together and stop war and stop this insanity. Until the next time we come together in love, au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.